I want people to move intuitively. I want to move intuitively. I want to be out of my head.
What if we don't want to be normal? What if we don't want to settle for being right in the middle? What if we want to be on the optimal side of normal?
What do I want to experience right now? What do I want to try on? Trusting your experience.
Welcome to the Hot Flash Health Podcast, where we're dishing out unfiltered truths about menopause with a side of sass and a sprinkle of grass.
Get ready to dive into the wild world of hot flashes, mood swings, and all of the other joys of being a queenager.
This ain't your grandma's podcast. No, we are here to talk our bodies, our fears, our passions, our desires, all while navigating this wild roller coaster ride of menopause.
So grab a glass of wine,
For free.
kick back, relax, and let's enjoy this hot flash wave together.
I'm Courtney Mamusha, and alongside me is my fabulous co-host, Dawn Fable.
We're just two outspoken broads who like to call it how it is.
Now, without further ado, let's kick off today's episode.
Welcome back to the Hot Flash Health Podcast, the podcast where we're ditching the stigma and embracing the sweat and taking charge of our bodies, our minds, and our midlife magic. I am Dawn Fable, and today I am so honored to have a guest who is a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for many years, Mary Beth LaRue. She embodies resilience, reinvention, and radical self-love. Mary Beth is a celebrated yoga and meditation teacher, a writer, and a founder of Embodied by Mary Beth. But more than that, she is a woman who's rewriting the script on what family, identity, and self-care look like in midlife. Mary Beth has graced the cover in all of her beauty, both on the exterior and inside of Yoga Journal, leading Wanderlust festivals, or designing transformational yoga experiences for everyone from professional athletes to organizations like the Down Syndrome Association of Los Angeles. She's partnered with powerhouse brands like Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, Amazon, and HBO, just to name a few, because she is nothing but a badass human being. Mary Beth didn't just find her way to mindfulness, she's built a life around it. And we are so honored to have you to share your journey, talk about the path to motherhood, which led to your adoption, which you leaned in with such beauty, grace, and patience in welcoming your beautiful son, Angel, into the world. So today we're not just talking about menopause, motherhood, and the power of choosing your bliss, but we are talking about everything in between. So welcome, my sweet friend.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
You know, a little bit of my knowledge of you, and with the help of ChatGPT.
I love it. Send me those words.
Yeah. Well, you know, you and I have gone back a really long time, and we met when I founded my female wellness company, Press Pause, which you have been a huge advocate for. And then, of course, we have had you do many mindfulness and meditation and yoga sessions, and you are a big deal. But, you know, not just on the exterior, being, you know, on the cover of all of these magazines and working with all these phenomenal brands, but you're one of the most beautiful human beings that I have ever met. And we're so
Thank
fortunate
you.
to have you because you represent just so much. So let's get started. You know, with your yoga practice and everything that you've done, you are really the queen of finding calm in the chaos. And all of us going through this middle life chaos, some perimenopausal, some menopausal. How has your mindfulness and yoga practice helped you and all of the extraordinary women in your life navigate through these roller coasters?
I would say, when I was younger, I had so much free time. I was able, self-care could stretch into days if I needed it to be. That's not the case anymore, right? I need to restore sometimes in seconds, right? Walk into the bathroom, come back out, and be in a different space. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just coming up against life or whatever's headed my way in a bulldoze like fashion. And I'm not interested in that. I also, as I reflect, I'm 41 now, and I would say over this past decade too, of seeing my circumstances shift so much, right? From being in foster care with our son to going through, just various things that we go through as women as we shift and we come into this next stage of life. And seeing my practice as a way to buoy myself, to restore, not a to-do list item or not a should that usually makes me feel like shit, right? But rather something that can be, as you said, like a active radical self-care. And that really starts by listening, like really asking yourself, what do I need? And sometimes for me, that's not a big workout. That's laying on the floor for 5 minutes, or noticing what thought has me spiraling and feeling my feet on the ground. So I think really, as I get older and working with a lot of my students and clients, it comes back to simplicity, right? A simpler way.
Yeah. I love how you said I'm not interested in that. It's such like a polite yet like assertive badass way to just be like, this doesn't serve me anymore. And that's something that I've really admired in watching you and your practice and your newsletters and what you've done with your Embodied program is you have been so true to what your intuition and body has been telling you. And you've really given others, I think, the permission to do the same, which I think we as women naturally, right?
Mhm.
We don't give ourselves the permission to press pause, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
really take that time to put our to-do list to the side and to honor what our body is needing in that moment in time. So that's amazing. Thank you for that.
Of
Um,
course.
Certainly motherhood for those of us who are mothers have changed all of us in the most beautiful way. I certainly can sense that in your journey, as I've known you throughout when you were fostering Angel to the adoption to really embracing this motherhood. You went through a process of adopting your beautiful son, Angel. In a world that oftentimes tells women that biological motherhood is the default, right?
Hmm.
There's so much pressure on us as women to be moms, right? And I think oftentimes those unconventional ways of to motherhood is lost upon a lot of people. So in your process and not only fostering Angel, but adopting, and then of course, being a mother to this beautiful little boy, what did that journey teach you about identity, about trust, about rewriting those rules, especially in a time of life when women are really redefining themselves?
It's big, layered. I would start first with intuition of, yeah, there is this huge pressure of to be a biological mom. And not only that, that people don't necessarily believe you, women included, that that's not important to you. And so that was one thing that I came up against hard, I would say, was people being confused that I wasn't tied to that, that adopting was the path I wanted. And, we had tried to get pregnant for a little bit and had seen a doctor and immediately decided it just wasn't our route. Like it just intuitively wasn't the way we were going to go. So we were in a place of maybe we don't have kids. And it was more important to my husband to have children. Maybe we don't have kids. And then perhaps there's this other way. And so as we explored adoption a bit, and Matt was super excited about it, and so was I recalled that one of my students worked in foster care. And so I ended up speaking with her, and she really brought us through a breakdown of a very complex world of foster care and what it would look like to adopt from foster care in Los Angeles. And once we met with the head of Extraordinary Families, which is the organization we went through who would help us with Department of Child and Family Services, the biological parents and relatives, and ourselves, we were all in. And so I think, it's also this idea that everything's certain, that if you're a biological parent, that there aren't uncertainties that come up. And I think after you've been a parent for a while, everyone knows that's not true. With foster care, there was always a good high chance that we wouldn't be able to adopt him. And so we weren't able to adopt him until he was 2.5, and he came to us at 6 days old. And so I've always said, like, I got schooled in uncertainty and being able to unconditionally love this human who was a soulmate the second I saw him. Like, my whole body knew. Like, I didn't know how it was going to go, but I knew that I was going to give myself completely. And so was my husband. And so I think at the core, it's just love, right? It doesn't matter if your child looks like you or talks like you. It really matters that you're able to love them and support them. And so we always knew too that if he reunified, which we were in full support with, we had no choice, right? It was like if he reunified, then that's the route it would go, and we would support whatever path was best for him. But it wasn't up to us whatsoever. But we knew we could provide him with safety and support that little heart and nervous system. And so that's what we would continually remind ourselves of. Even like, to be clear, we were gutted, right? Like we loved him from the second we saw him. So when we went to court almost 40 times, every single time being told, you might be saying goodbye in 2 hours,
Oh my God.
to someone that you had just given your whole heart to. So it really was shocking to me that we got to adopt him. And I live like that with him. He is like, it's making me emotional just now. I haven't like gone here in a while of like, that was my greatest wish, right? Like I would bargain with God for days, but at the end of the day, it was up to whatever was meant to be. So when we moved to Colorado, when we started our life here, and we had a plan to move to Colorado either to heal without him or in a miracle fashion with him. And he came. And so it was just wild. It was like we adopted him July 2020 by signing a piece of paper at a FedEx with masks on. There was no courtroom full of family and friends. There were no balloons or, like I had always had this vision of what it would be, and it wasn't. But we had him. So it didn't, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. But wild.
What a lucky little boy. I'm such a big believer
Lucky
in
me.
the universe or God or whatever whatever you believe in, fate, that God really chooses parents, right?
Hmm.
Parents and children to be together. And I can't imagine, that process and having to relinquish control of the
And I'm a total
outcome.
control freak. Yeah. Like it was wild. And it made me realize too how privileged my life has been. I've never sat in a courtroom waiting for a judge to decide my fate, or I've never had to tell a judge that I was leaving the county or ask for permission to cut his hair, just like wild stuff or have social workers in your house all the time or whatever it is. And it taught me a lot. And I appreciated the small moments before. I've always been like that. Send me to a coffee shop by myself for an hour with my notebook and I'm like in heaven. But now it's so different. Even last night, when Matt's out of town, I let him sleep in our bed. And, it was like I woke up in the middle of the night and just like pulled him toward me. And he's 7 and he's in first grade and he's like the honeyest, like most creative, beautiful little human. But yeah, I feel like I pay more attention to a lot of things and that's what loss does too, right? And even though we adopted him, his life started with loss. He will deal with that loss for his whole life. We moved through grief so many times with him whilst him still right there. So, grief really informs how we live. And I think we've all experienced that in a variety of ways and will. That's the inevitable.
Yeah. What an incredible gift, though, that he's given you. I mean,
Oof.
far and above just motherhood and parenthood, and being able to live in that moment and being able to relinquish control because we are not in charge of our destiny or outcome. I've been very
Mhm.
open and honest in my struggle with anxiety. And I know you and I have had a lot of conversations around that. Ultimately, anxiety is really not being able to control the outcome of life. So you almost pull harder on trying to control that. And so
Mhm.
I can only imagine what an extraordinary gift that was, and relinquishing the control of what was to be with Angel, and really that lesson in life, understanding that we don't have control of the outcome or future.
Exactly. And I still don't. That's the thing too, right? Is like that when it appears, it feels terrifying. But I think when we live in closer proximity to it, like in Eastern religion, you're always contemplating your death, you're always contemplating the end. And that, once again, is a way to live more vibrantly instead of something like, I'm going to put that on the back burner till it's right in my face, right? Dancing with it a little bit.
Well, you do such a beautiful job, speaking of vibrancy, in your yoga practice. You have this extraordinary combination of vibrancy to stillness to vulnerability in your practice. How has yoga and really this self-care movement that you've not only embraced yourself, but put out there for others to experience. How has that balanced your life as a mother and parenthood in general?
Well, I've been teaching for not about 20 years. And I would say when I first started, it was very much like, what do people want? I need to deliver. I want to be giving them what they want. The practices were very athletic. I played, always popular music. And now I've just found my vibe. And that is from really dropping back into the rhythm I'm meant to move at. Like, I'm a slower person. I love to move slowly and I love to help people move slowly. That doesn't mean that I don't move through manic phases. It's just that yoga is what tethers me and anchors me. And so I think as women, as moms, no one is going to tell you to slow down. No one is going to be like, I just cleared the next 12 hours for you. Well, maybe a very random situation, right? Or a gift. But in the day to day, that's not happening. And so finding those spaces to carve out for yourself. I've been unrolling my mat lately. And if I just want to lay down, that's what I do. Right. And often, like, I come into some fun creative flow. I love music. I love something with a beat. I love like good neo soul or hip hop, and just finding something that feels like the expression of me in that moment, that it's not for anybody else. And then to teach too, it's to hold space for people to have an experience of themselves. So I will have long periods where I'm not saying much because it's for you.
Well, you do such an incredible job of, really promoting women to reconnect with themselves, promoting all people to reconnect with themselves and celebrate their bodies and what they're feeling at that
Mhm.
moment, instead of feeling like, you're fighting these movements or fighting
Yeah.
your practice.
I also don't love people who tell me what to do nonstop for a period of time. Like, I love permission and giving people permission, right? Of like, go this way or go that way. See what speaks to you. And so options create permission, create space, give you some more ownership over your practice, your body. Right? Everybody's telling us what to do. Make sure you walk 10K, eat this many grams of protein, do this, sleep this many hours, don't look at a screen, blah, 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 blah. And at a certain point, we get super cut off from what we need because we're following a prescription that someone else came up with. Right? I always ask the question in teaching and in life of like, what is needed now? Right? Is it a walk outside? Is it to get on the Peloton? Is it to take a moment in my journal? Right? Like, there's so many ways. And we end up getting very pigeonholed into this path of this is what self care looks like. This is what wellness looks like. This is what a healthy body looks like, when it's not true for all of us.
That's so true. I've never really thought about it like that, right? We're also bombarded with information and a lot of, frankly, misinformation out there.
Mhm.
The influencers, the bloggers, the experts, telling us what we need as a generalization. And I think
Yes.
we all are guilty of buying into that, right? Each one of us are very individual and manifest stress in different ways. Recently I've been getting all of these feeds on my Instagram about, cortisol and stress
Mhm.
and how I need these cortisol detox and things like that. And it's become just a marketing machine about,
100%.
you know,
Yeah.
how to reduce stress, how to reduce, how to maximize, um, you know, wellness. Speaking of, cortisol, as I've dug a little bit deeper into it, it's an absolute wrecking ball to our sleep,
Mhm.
to our moods, to our metabolism, to our patience.
Mhm. Our
What
creativity.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, creativity, all of it. I mean, I can tell that I am just like at my maximum because my short temperedness and my just wanting to absolutely fucking kill everyone who even breathes around me is sky high. And I don't know if that's hormones. I don't know if that's just life in general. I don't know, if the wind is blowing the wrong way.
The
But
stars, the moon, yeah,
totally,
retrograde.
the world that we're living in, right? How are you regulating stress aside from your breath work, aside from your movement, aside from your beautiful presence of being able to be in the moment. What are some tips that you have? Because you really do seem, and I know, you seem like such a grounded human being. I know that that's not always the case, of course, but
I'm I'm pretty earthy. I definitely am like I said, I'm slow, more grounded. However, Matt would laugh probably. Anyone close to you would always laugh of like, ha, yeah, you have your moments. However, I do think a big part of this is surfing it, right? Like everything ebbs and flows. Our life has been particularly challenging personally for the past year, and the world, it feels absolutely chaotic and heartbreaking. And if I stay with just that, if I stay in my head and I stay in that perspective of what's hard, or I stay in that perspective of what I'm not able to get done, that thought is going to manifest in my body as an emotion, create more cortisol. And then the action I take from that space is going to be shitty. Right. So it's like that kind of surfing of noticing the thoughts that aren't working for you, noticing maybe you need to put yourself in timeout, which I do regularly. I even say to Angel, I'm like, mommy needs 5, right? Mommy needs 15, and I'll be back. And letting the equation change of what you need. Right. You're like we just said, like what someone else is telling you to do, checking in with yourself of, this week I'm feeling already here. Maybe extra coffee isn't what I need. Maybe I need really good sleep, so I'll cut wine or whatever it is. Perhaps I'm going to stow my phone because there's too much coming up that is a lot to handle. And then keep trying stuff on until you find what works for you. Like I love to walk outside. I love to walk outside. And I do keep an eye on my steps because I think it's something I know I feel better when I'm moving. And when I'm outside, like my whole perspective shifts. And I've noticed that about myself for the past few years. When I lived in LA and it was hot and crowded, and we lived in this neighborhood where the sidewalks were terrible and I couldn't push a stroller on them, walking was not relaxing. And now I live on a mountaintop where it's March 5th and there is not a cloud in the sky. And it's what, 20 something degrees, but it's a perfect day to go for a walk. And just noticing that that's something pretty sustainable. I could take a call if I need to, but mostly I really try to have that 30 minutes or whatever it is for me as a way to take it down a notch. And that could absolutely not work for you. That might not be the way, but there's something that can help bring you back to a space of homeostasis, which is what we're looking for, is not being super activated, not being super lethargic, but finding that sweet spot. And then I would say defending it. Right? Like taking things off your calendar, not calling someone back if they make you feel shitty, like finding what it is. And that really is the surfing of what works for me now, what is needed now.
saying no, thank you, I'm not interested.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that.
Yeah,
I have a friend who says, if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no. And
exactly. And it's
that
hard though.
it is hard, but I feel like, as we evolve into these middle-aged human beings that we are, we're getting better at setting boundaries and we're getting better at
Mhm.
saying no, and we're being better in that. Something that really struck me in your most recent newsletter, because I know, and I want you to talk about this, you're exploring a somatic yoga
Mm.
certification and practice. And you talked about finding those moments of pause and really leaning into your senses. And it really spoke to me because someone gave me the best piece of advice when I got married. And, because your wedding ceremony and all of the chaos around it, it becomes about everyone else and not you. And I think so often in life and marriage ceremonies and all of it, we lose a sense of, really being able to take those things in and identifying those senses. But someone gave me a piece of advice saying during your wedding ceremony, and even after in the after party and things like that, step away from it and take a look at your 5 senses and really feel those moments and remember those moments in your marriage. For us, we got married on a beach, so it was feeling the sensation of the sand on our feet, or it was smelling the incredible flowers that were there. And so talk to us a little bit about, one, your exploration into this different form of yoga and your practice, and two, how you've leaned into the senses and those pause moments, because I think all of us could learn from that.
I really love that. And that's something I try to practice. I really love that from your wedding. I've always moved toward an embodied, I know it's my brand, but it's true, like an embodied sense of yoga. Like I want people to move intuitively. I want to move intuitively. I want to be out of my head. And I was reading something where a woman was speaking about the mechanistic form of yoga, which is where we learn where our arms go, how deep to sit into our hip in this posture, whatever. And then the difference being an embodied form of yoga. And that is where we follow the impulse of our body. We follow the wave of our breath. And I spend a lot of time still in my head. And for me, the yoga practice is a way to return to my senses, return to my body. And somatics in general, once I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose right now because I'm so in love with it. And I can't believe that at 41, I'm really just now diving into this world. But I have been for so long in my own intuitive way. And really learning about our nervous system, learning the different states of the nervous system, learning how to soothe it, learning how to heal trauma that once we have energy move through us, it's gone. It can't return. And think about all the things, Dawn, that like you experience and then you brace and it gets stuck. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like with foster care, even, yes, I was moving through it vulnerably and I'm sure it looked very like I was taking it in a calm sense. And I felt like this all the time, like taking hits for my child, which I still feel. And as a mom, I think that is a thing, but letting things move through us. And a lot of that is inviting in the senses of I'm drinking a press pause chai right now, but paying attention to like the honey and the flavor. I constantly have oils around me or like I'll smell something. I can't right now, clearly, because I'm sick. All of these different elements, noticing light, noticing how the earth feels when you lay down in Shavasana. And those are things that often we charge through because we're on to the next thing on our calendar or our to-do list. And my favorite poet speaks to this. His name's Mark Nepo. And he says, and we blur on by having gone past everything without actually having experienced it. So we're like a train moving down a track, but we're not pausing. And to me, it's like he says to slow down until what we have in front of us is touchable, seeable, feelable. And a lot of times that feels painful if we're not used to it, or if there's things that we need to experience, or it's uncomfortable to be still, or it's uncomfortable to pay attention. But to me, it's like, what's the consequence of not paying attention? What am I going to miss if I'm not here? And so that's the reminder every day of like, I can't believe my son's 7. I can't believe it's already March. That kind of thing as I get older of how did I get here? Yeah. But if I slow down enough, I feel into being exactly where I'm at and supposed to be. And so somatics really is that return to self and moving out of here. Mm-hmm. And into the body.
You can probably speak to this, and that's so beautiful. Thank you. I actually just pulled up your newsletter, and it says that one practice that you found extremely helpful as the grounding technique is pause, then identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
Because it takes you out of your head.
I mean,
it takes you out of that, like, yeah.
So simple, yet so powerful.
Yeah. And what if we were really to feel everything we're doing and moving through? We're eating. We'll probably eat in a way that is so much more embodied and taste what we're having, or like if you're going to have the glass of wine, slow it down and taste it, smell it, enjoy it right there. To me, I've moved really like so far out of this like black and white, right or wrong, whatever, good girl, bad girl kind of binary of what do I want to experience right now? What do I want to try on? Who cares if Joe Schmo on the internet is telling me that I need 10K steps? Like if I need to do this instead, then that's the way today. But it's getting back to that like trusting your experience.
Yeah. Mary Beth, I could talk to you all day. You're such an old soul. It's like you've been on this earth many times and many different beings, if you will. Speaking about intuition, which again, I think that we as women need to rely more on our intuition. When we saw one another the other day briefly, you mentioned that you recently had some intuition that you might be experiencing some perimenopause symptoms. And I think because this industry is so dismissive, right? And we as women aren't being heard when we're feeling off. practitioners are just looking to medicate to hide what may be happening symptomatically. Aside from your intuition around the perimenopause, what really led you to believe that you might be entering into this extraordinary, challenging roller coaster time in your life?
I feel different. And there's just things now where if I'm not moving toward balance, I feel wildly off. And so once again, though, that's whatever it looks like for you. But like if I have too much coffee, right? If I drink too much, if I eat something that doesn't agree with me, I feel it way that is like I can't ignore it. I can't mask it. Like I need sleep. And so I'm actually having my third round of blood work on Friday because my numbers are coming back, quote unquote, normal. But I don't think they are. And so I'm seeing a specialist to see if that's what it is or if there's something else going on. And yeah, I think it is probably a chaotic time in life. And I'm kind of looking forward to some of the shifts of the slowing down and embracing it and leading with it, saying, like, no, I actually can't do that. I need this. And I always love a reason. And sometimes I have a hard time saying it if I don't have a reason, even though my intuitive reason is enough. I'm just saying that's something I continue to work on in
Yeah.
knowing in myself.
I
Tons of my friends, like we talk about this all the time, friends going through perimenopause, whereas perimenopause wasn't something I'd even heard of several years ago. It was just menopause
yeah.
in my world.
I appreciate so much of what you just said. And there's so much that I have to say about that. I don't even know where to start. But, this industry, the medical industry, is broken, and especially around female health and hormones. And when we do oftentimes go to a physician and say that we're feeling off, we are dismissed. We're not being seen. We're not being heard. It's prescribe. And this is just something you're going to
Hmm.
have to settle with and get through. And that's where I have such an issue too, even though we have more access to more testing and AI has played a huge part of that, myself included, and we're going in, we're seeing these tests and we're coming back within normal, right?
Hmm.
What if we don't want to be normal? What if we don't want
Yeah.
to
Yep.
settle for being right in the middle? What if we want to be actually on the optimal side of
Hmm.
normal? How do we get there? Right? Because we as women are settling for the normalcy of being in the middle, not fighting and advocating for optimal hormonal health. And I think that that's
And thriving. Yeah.
yes, thriving, not surviving. So, we're really excited at Hot Flash Health because one of the things that we're rolling out is the ability to do different modalities of testing, but then to have AI, which is such a powerful tool, come in and interpret those results and help you find resources to that of thriving in midlife, not settling. So we'll have to talk after your third test come back and
Yeah.
your specialist, because to find a specialist is like finding a fucking unicorn who will
Yeah.
actually dig into root causes and look at you as an individual and take that comprehensive approach.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, of course. So, a couple more things. I'm fortunate to know both you and your husband, who the moment I met Matt, I was like, God, this guy is such a badass. Like, that's almost not fair to like society, how two badass, beautiful, pathetic, extraordinary human beings find each other. Spread the wealth. But, I can only imagine the challenges that in what you experienced with Angel, how that impacted your marriage, both positively and negatively. We
Mhm.
as middle-aged human beings, as women, many of us who have been married for 10, 15 years are sort of starting to hit these road bumps, right? We're dealing with childhood trauma. We're dealing with the challenges of parenthood. We're dealing with the stresses of life and, professions. And we may or may not be where we thought we were going to be at this age. And it wreaks havoc on a marriage. And I think so often I have a therapist that tells me if you don't prioritize your marriage over your children, you're fucked when your
Mhm.
kids leave. I know it's always easier as an outsider to look in at a beautiful marriage, and we all have our challenges, but what have you done in your grounded self to stay connected with your husband? Or what advice do you have? Because you guys have embraced such a beautiful life and it seems like really evolving together. And what's your secret? I know it's not perfect.
Thank you. No, it's not perfect. We are complete opposites, like complete and utter opposites. My husband is Gemini, a zillion miles a minute for total extrovert, would have people over every night of the week. And so I think the biggest thing is communicating what we both need. And so my need is often quiet, pull back, time with just him, time alone, time just the three of us. Like I'm very much like quality time person. And then for him to communicate that he needs to have people over, that he wants to go out and do something more social. Like he pulls me, like I'm not by any mean a hermit, but he pulls me back into the world when I'm kind of retreating and doing my own thing. And so having that dance once again of what's working now too. You know, he's in a job where he is gone a lot right now. And so when he comes home, he's really prioritizing putting his phone away, taking quality time with our son. Like they went on a little sushi date the other night. It was so
Mhm.
sweet. And then to check in because we're both changing all the time. And so communicating that maybe in the past, this was what I loved to do. And now that has shifted. And this is what's interesting to me. And one of my coach of many years, her name's Shelley Lawrence. She's brilliant. And she had said, if you cover your husband in post-it notes, so labels and judgments and thoughts, you can't see who he is. And so perhaps you have an idea of who he was, 3 years ago when you met. For us, it was 14 years ago when we first started dating. And it's like we've shifted. And so to peeling away those post-it notes to really get to see each other and to take those labels off. And that also is a quest and vulnerability as well, for sure. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'm game and sometimes I'm not,
Yeah. Set those
you
boundaries in your
know?
marriage too.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
just sent my husband something that I saw on Mel Robbins that said that there's really three people in a marriage, right? There's you, there's your spouse, and then there's your marriage. And
Mm,
so recognizing each one of those entities, if you will, individually and not trying to put them all together.
I love that.
Yeah, it was so powerful to me.
Hmm.
Well, whatever you're doing, I mean, again, you guys are both such incredible human beings that
Thank you.
for
Ditto.
you to have found one another. It seems unfair. Spread the wealth, but I love it that you guys. I love it that you guys did.
It's funny.
So we really want a part of our mission at Hot Flash Health is to elevate just extraordinary human beings, their vision, what they're offering the world. And you have such incredible offerings. You do retreats, you have teacher training, you have all of your yoga practices, you have your Embodied program, which stems from really your soul. Am I here
Mhm.
in my life and my body? How am I to be present? Tell us about how we can have more Mary Beth in our lives, how the world can experience more of you in everything that you offer.
Mhm. Thank you. I love what I do, first of all. Like, love what I do. I wake up and I'm excited most of the time. Okay, so first of all, virtual classes. I have either drop in, it's my embodied, you can do a membership, the embodied membership, or drop in classes. And I have a library of 450 plus recorded classes. I've been doing it since 2019. And so six of those classes a month, sometimes more, are live. And then I have my embodied coaching immersion, which will relaunch in the fall with all of this somatic goodness woven through it. So I will be sure, Dawn, I'd love for you to be a part of it. I have a slow flow yoga teacher training, which I have going right now. I offer that once a year. All of this is virtual. And then I lead retreats. I do once a year to Sayulita, Mexico. This year I am not, but I will be back at it. I have a retreat in Northern California at Canyon Ranch in April. Yeah, come. Yeah, I'm really
Ooh.
excited. April 11th, I think, or 10th. Yeah, what else? I write, I post on Instagram a decent amount about things. I'm always recommending things I'm interested in or want people to explore if they want to. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now. But
Well, I've been fortunate to know you in many different capacities for many. I've
rock
been
your
very,
bliss days.
yeah, right. I've been so clear. I'm the first to admit that I hate exercise, like hate it.
I
But
understand.
your yoga class is something that fundamentally and legitimately rocked me to my core.
Mm.
In I need more of this in my life. Like I need more of you. And one of the things, aside from your incredible, talented, just flow and presence and just pure badassery that you offer in your yoga classes, is your music.
I'm
I mean,
obsessed. I spend
you
so much time on my music.
you should be truly like a DJ, because I have to thank you. One of the things that I think I enjoyed so much about your class was your music, and you turned me on to literally one of my favorite DJs, DJ Soul Rising.
Oh, yeah, I used to work with them in person all the time. Yeah,
Yeah. So for those of
he's
us
great.
who are trying to like figure out as middle-aged women what grounds us, and turning off the Kendrick Lamar every once in a while, and all the
Hmm.
shit that our kids listen to, which I actually like
I
Kendrick
played him in
Lamar.
class the other day.
Did you? Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
Oh,
him.
yeah. I love him. But yes.
Tell us what's on repeat for you.
Okay. Well, first of all, in my classes, rhythm is super important to me. So I often teach on the beat. So that's probably why too you like that is I don't like class where there's a song playing and it's disjointed from what's happening. So the music is fully woven right into movement, how we're breathing, everything. I'm really into Saint Sinner. Let me just pull up my playlist actually from today. She's a DJ. She's wonderful. Let's see. Krishna Canning, this one from today. Is It Light Where You Are by Art School Girlfriend. Love. Janae Aiko. I mean, there's just so much. Like I change it up all the time, all the time. So I share playlists a lot. I also teach in person here in Evergreen every Wednesday, Dawn, at 9.
Oh,
So you should come. And then I'm offering classes here too in this like beautiful renovated chapel on my friend's land up here in the mountains. Candlelit
oh.
slow flow. It's pretty great. So lots of
So,
stuff to come. Yeah.
well, we will make sure and promote all of those links.
Thank you.
Send us a link of your playlist and your Spotify,
Okay.
and we'll hit that
Okay.
up too. My mom always says, lead with a heart full of gratitude. And
Mm.
you do such a beautiful job of doing that. She also says, if you're looking for sympathy, you can find it in between shit and syphilis in the dictionary. So those are her two, like,
I love that. What a dynamic human.
oh, she's such a beautiful human. But leading with my heart full of gratitude. I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed and continue to evolve in so many different capacities. And I'm grateful for your wisdom and your beauty and all of the many things that you offered
Hmm.
today, and your
Thank you so
vulnerability
much.
in your story with Angel, and how you've incorporated that experience into life and your practice, and just leading this grounded life, and always being a student to trying to find more of that in your life. There's so much that I've learned from you today, and I hope that our listeners do too.
Thank you so much for having me. And biggest ditto. Super grateful for you.
Well, there's more. We'll have more, and we want to do
Hmm.
everything that we can to promote you. So,
All
anyway,
right. Thanks.
thank you. Thank you. Bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Remember, menopause may be a wild ride, but together we've got this.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Hot Flash Health.
Stream and subscribe to us on any of your favorite listening platforms like YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
And of course, share your thoughts with us. We love hearing from our amazing listeners.
And until next time, stay sassy, stay fabulous, and keep those hot flashes in check.
Yeah, girl.
Woo!